Hi, I'm Arthur Haines, and I suspect a lot of you have been paying very close attention to the issues surrounding the nuclear reactor in Fukushima, Japan, as a result of the tsunami that devastated that portion of Japan. I was speaking with my friend Daniel Vitalis recently, who has to visit the west coast of the United States for a period of time for the Longevity Now conference, and we were discussing some of the strategies that each of us would take to keep ourselves protected from radiation. Daniel has posted a really nice video on marine algae, specifically kelp, and a nice way of bringing that medicine along with you during your travels. I'm not going to repeat that information here. He's done a great job discussing it, and please visit his YouTube channel to see how he prepares kelp to protect himself from radioactive iodine. One of the problems, of course, with the event at the nuclear reactors in Fukushima is that the health effects are not confined to the immediate region. In this case, radioactive particles are being transported by the wind and are being delivered to the west coast of the United States. Though we are being told by our health officials that there is no danger from these, I recognize that we have cumulative effects from all sorts of different toxic pollutants that combine synergistically in some cases to create some real health hazards for us. I'm fortunate living here on the east coast of the United States. In this particular example, I have much less to worry about than those on the west coast. What I'd like to do today is to share with you those strategies that I would employ if I lived in that area. And I want to be really careful to present this as not a what you should do, but what I would do. And then you can do your own research to decide if those strategies will work for you. A very important thing to keep in mind, and one of the reasons that I've decided to do this video, we are being encouraged to consume iodine-rich foods, and this is very, very important, and the advice should be followed. But this particular event in Fukushima, Japan, is releasing radioactive cesium, and the iodine will not convey the type of protection that we want against this radioactive particle. And for this reason, because it's radioactive cesium, we need to employ additional strategies to defend our body from this radiation. Now, one of the first lines of defense that I would employ to protect my body from the damage due to radiation is an endogenous antioxidant called glutathione. Glutathione is not an essential nutrient because our body can produce it, but we have ways of boosting its concentrations inside of our body, and these include providing the building blocks for glutathione or consuming things that boost its levels through other mechanisms. Food sources would include things like avocados, asparagus, walnuts, and goat dairy. These are some of our best sources. For wild plants, we would be looking at members of the mustard family, and for wild members, this would include things like Dame's rocket, bittercress, watercress, and a host of other species that have those mustard or horseradish type flavors. As well, members of the onion family like wild leeks, wild onions, and wild garlics also provide some of the building blocks for glutathione. Glutathione, we can also boost its levels by utilizing things like milk thistle, Salibum marianum, and this is something that's very easily purchased in natural food stores and can be blended and broken and consumed in various different ways. For those looking for a wild plant that is known to boost glutathione levels, we would look to something like Prunella vulgaris, which is self-heal. It's a member of the mint family that is very, very common in fields and lawns across a lot of the United States. Now, the reason that we want to boost glutathione levels is, well, many, to be honest. One, it is an antioxidant inside of our body, so it scavenges free radicals, including those that are caused by radioactive particles. Glutathione is extremely protective of DNA, particularly inside of the mitochondria of our cells. These are the powerhouses that actually serve to power the functioning of our cells. Glutathione boosts immune system function, and as well, it's known to keep vitamin C, and vitamin E, two antioxidant vitamins in their reduced or otherwise their active states, so that they can do their job protecting our bodies from free radical damage. Another antioxidant that I would want to boost inside of my body is called superoxide dismutase. This too is an endogenous antioxidant, one that our body creates, but there are foods that we can consume to boost its levels. One of the most important ones is pine pollen. And pine pollen is nice because it can be wild collected. In this part of the world, we gather it in the month of June, kind of in the late spring. But pine pollen is something that's also on the market and can be purchased. For those that are purchasing pine pollen, I recommend getting the types that have been frozen to break the cell walls, so that the components within, these very deeply nourishing components, are available to your body more easily through digestion. Now, for those that can't collect or purchase pine pollen, there is always the inner bark of pine, and we can essentially use any species that we encounter. Pine bark contains a number of proanthocyanidins. These are water-soluble phenolic compounds that work as antioxidants that boost levels of superoxide dismutase in our body. By being water-soluble, that means that portions of the inner bark can be gathered by separating them away from the outer bark and simply decocted in water for a period of time to draw out these components and drag as a tea. It couldn't get any easier than that. Another thing that we can purchase in the store or gather from farms for places that do grow this plant is milk thistle again. Milk thistle has been shown to boost levels of superoxide dismutase in our body. So here we have some both wild collected and some components that we can purchase to help with this endogenous antioxidant. Now, a final strategy that I would employ would involve clay. Clay consists of extremely tiny particles that are negatively charged, and by this they are able to bond with heavy metals and radioactive particles and help us remove them from the surface or from the interior of our body before they can cause long-term harm. In fact, even scientists at Chernobyl would apply clay to their bodies before they donned their protective suits. And in this way, when they got home at night, they could wash the clay away to help deal with the effects of radioactive particles that would have been perhaps getting through their suit and onto their skin. So this is a very important strategy. A final few words about strategies you can employ. Be sure that your body gets ample vitamin D through sunlight, cold water fish, fermented cod liver oil, or all of the above. Vitamin D is very important for boosting levels of glutathione in your body. And remember, glutathione conveys protection to DNA against radioactive particles. Another unfortunate thing would be avoiding dairy produced in the region. The issue here is the radioactive particles settle on the landscape, the dairy animals consume them and bioaccumulate them in your bodies, and then when you consume the dairy, you actually receive much higher doses than you would otherwise through normal interaction with your landscape. This is an extremely sad thing for the dairy producers in that region, but based on the half-life of the particles involved, I would be avoiding dairy produced in that area for decades. I'll conclude this video today by offering those that are in the area affected by the radioactive particles my best wishes for defending themselves and their families from the harmful effects of this radiation. This provides us another opportunity to look very deeply at not only how we generate power, but how we interact with this environment. It's another example of where we can look to the lessons that are given to us by the Aboriginal people and the respect and the style of interaction that they have for their local landscapes.